Hey guys, this is Will Roundtree, your FICO certified credit specialist, credit mastery instructor for the Jay Morrison Academy, author of 2 books, Credit is King, as well as Full-Time CEO, The Shit They Don't Tell You. But more importantly, I want to take you on this journey about financial literacy, the importance of credit, how to understand credit, and how to get to that money. Welcome to the Wealth Files Podcast. Peace, family. Will Roundtree here. You are tuned in to the Wealth Files. My name is Will Roundtree. President and founder of We Management Services, FICO certified credit instructor. Also, some peg me as a motivational speaker. I'm still questionable about that. But more importantly, I am a 2-time author of the book Credit is King, which is a book that's not necessarily a how-to, but more of a manual that gives you all the information you need to understand credit, how to maintain it, how to build it for your children, the myths about credit, all that good stuff. Also, you can pick up my latest book, Full-Time CEO, The Shit They Don't Tell You, where we're going to talk about the unglamorized side of business, entrepreneurship, how to become that full-time CEO, how to fire your boss, but more importantly, just giving you some nuggets and steps to understand success is really all about your mindset, not necessarily about hard work, although hard work is a part of that equation. You can pick up both books on Amazon. You also can go to my personal website, willroundtree.com. And if you have not done so, please make sure you go out and subscribe, like, share, comment on my YouTube channel. Trust me, I love the feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. That's how I get better and continue to give you guys all the information that you guys are requesting. But more importantly, today's podcast, so we shot an episode about a week ago or maybe 2 weeks ago where it was just me, kind of a one-man dialogue of some questions. And the response was so overwhelmingly positive. People said, Will, we want another one just like that. So we're actually going to shoot another episode today where it's just myself. I'm going to touch on a couple different topics. We may even ruffle a little bit of feathers, but that's where that's where the change starts. We have to start to really just open up a different perspective of thinking. And that's on every level, every facet of our lives. Think about it. I had to have a paradigm shift of how I thought about money, finances, and credit before I could become better. Because when you know better, you start to do better. And that's one of the things that I've learned just in life. It's one of the things I've learned that's helped me in my business is that you have to change your perspective. I can remember going to one of my very first business meetings, and my perspective was, this is corny, but I had to change how I thought, my outview, my output, or whatever. It was a time I didn't like to wear suits. And I was like, it's no need for me to. But for me to be able to maneuver in certain settings, I had to make sure I, dressed the part, which, I like to wear suits now. And so just understanding that we have to start elevating our thinking. We have to start to increase our frequency of thinking, as I like to call it. And so today's topic, we're going to talk about the stigma of college and success. Are they synonymous? Do you have to go to college to become successful? And I talked a little bit about this just even in my journey and in my story, how, I was a pretty much straight A and B student in high school. I remember getting a C and I was upset. That's because, education was just always instilled in us at a very young age. And I can remember after graduating high school, as I got further in my high school journey, as I may call it, school actually got pretty boring to me. And that's because it came so easy. And so I share that because a lot of us who are parents, we may have children who are in school, but may not necessarily be doing as well academically. And let's not tout them out as, they're not smart. Sometimes they're just bored. I flunked algebra my first year. Now, that shit was hard, but I was just so bored with school that, it wasn't, I didn't even try. And so, and I also share that because a lot of times we think about failure. We have to change our perspective on failure. I did a TED talk where my topic was the power of failure. And in that TED talk, I talked about how a lot of times we fail at something because we just didn't prepare. When I was in algebra, I didn't prepare because I was bored. And I can remember thinking like, will I even use this stuff? Because I was so forward thinking about my next journey past high school. And I didn't even know what I wanted to do at the time because I couldn't, like, honestly, I did not see myself going on to college. Even though all my family, relatives, they all pegged me as that individual who was going to go on to college, get a multitude of degrees, and live happily ever after, have a wife, 2.5 kids with a white picket fence and a puppy. And that was definitely not my narrative, you know? And so I can remember graduating high school. You know, I thought about going to the military. Then I mean, I really did not know what I wanted to do. And so I can remember the day of my high school graduation. I graduated May 24th or 25th or one of those days, 1997, moved back to Milwaukee, didn't know what I was going to do, decided, you know what, maybe I'll go to technical school because I knew the power of trade. My dad was a tradesman. He was an iron worker. And so went to a technical college, you know, tried to study computers, wanted to learn about programming and all of this stuff. And that wasn't even my passion. I think I got into it because somebody told me I could make a lot of money in computers, or that was the wave of the future. And so went for maybe like a semester and a half, decided to, you know, drop out. And it wasn't because it was hard. One, I mean, again, I was bored. And also because my aspirations was so much further than just going to go and work in someone's computer firm. I wanted to make money, and lots of money. And it wasn't about the money itself. It was about what it can do for you. You know, I wanted my freedom. If I wanted to be able to take off any day of the week, that's what that was my goal. You know, if I want to have my mother retire early, that was my goal. If I wanted to be able to put my children in private school, if I want to make sure I can live in a desirable neighborhood, if I want to drive a reliable vehicle, if I want to be able to eat healthy. See, all of these things take money. See, we have to stop assuming people want to make money just to be able to buy stuff. Sometimes it's about the quality of life. You know, we live in a society where a gallon of water costs more than a gallon of gas. And so understanding it's about the quality of life that I wanted. And so I can remember being in my economics class, and I know I've shared this story many, many times, but I really want this to resonate with people, as well as this may be someone's first time listening to this. So that's really a gem for anybody who's in business. Share your story every single time. You know, one of the reasons that Jay-Z, for those who know him as Hov, is so successful because everyone knows his story. No matter where he is within his progression of his life, every single album, he always shared his story. So, and that is because in business, they say facts tell, stories sell. Stories is what sells the sizzle. Stories are what sells your vision. Stories are what sells you. So this is why I always tell my story, and I hope that you do the same. See, this is the shit they don't tell you about, and this is why I put it in a book. But then I'm still going to tell you. So, but more importantly, so I dropped out of college. I was in my economics class, and we were learning more about, you know, the cost of bread and different things like that, but he wasn't teaching us how to become wealthy. And so decided to drop out. Didn't know what I was going to do, you know, worked odd to end jobs and different things like that. And then I can remember being at a family function with some relatives, and the topic of college came up. And then this was some years later. And we started talking about college. And I have a few relatives that have, you know, multiple degrees, masters to PhDs to, I mean, you name it, they have it. And I can remember sitting at a table, and one of my relatives, and I mean, this was probably years removed from going to college. One of my relatives was like, man, my goal is just to be able to make six figures. And I didn't say anything because those who know me, they know I don't really talk about myself personally. And I can just remember saying to myself mentally, I made six figures on my 9 to 5, but it was a sales job. And that's the reason I always loved sales, is because my income was never capped. And so, and then I got to thinking even on a deeper level than that. I dropped out of college. I, worked probably a million jobs, found my way into a sales position at a company where I had the ability to make over $100,000 a year with no college education. And so and then of course, going through my journey of building my business and seeing that, more multimillionaires and billionaires either have no education, little education, dropped out of high school, dropped out of college, et cetera, et cetera. And so I wanted to just talk more about, because I think sometimes, especially in the Black community, we're scared to talk about things that may sometimes go against the grain. Believe it or not, we're scared to talk about money, but we'll go brag about other people who got money, and not even about the people who are in our family that may have created success. We'll brag on our favorite entertainers, and we have to get over those stigmas. This is why we're behind the 8 ball. We should be, we as a family, we as a community, we as a tribe, as a culture, should always talk about wealth. We should always talk about generational wealth. We should always talk about legacy building. More importantly, we should always talk about money, because we often talk about how much money we've wasted. Meaning, we'll brag about going on a vacation, but knowing that we probably are about 2 paychecks away from being homeless. And so we have to change the stigma. And so I want to just talk about, is college important? To some, it may be. Is college necessary for success? And success is subjective. To some, success isn't a monetary goal. To some, success is, freedom. Are we valuing the paper more than the information when we go to college? I often talk about ownership. If I decide that, if I would have decided to go to college, I would have went to get the information so now I can go and start my own computer firm, not go and work for someone else's firm. So do we value the paper more than the information? All right. So that's what we're going to discuss here today. And mind you, as a disclaimer, these are just my views, and people don't have to agree with them. But I want to open up this dialogue because I think that this is a topic that we should discuss, because it's interesting that sometimes we will praise someone who goes to college, but we won't praise someone in our neighborhood who go and start a business. Mind you, the person who started the business eventually is going to hire the person who went to college. So we have to start this dialogue here, okay? So we'll open. So I'm going to go through a couple questions. I have my moderator here who's going to help me. I'm going to get my DJ Vlad on. I'm getting interviewed. You won't necessarily see the person who was asking the questions, which is my partner, Scott. So what you got for me, Scott?
All right, so here we go. First one is, why is it stigmatized when you do not go to college to become successful?
Why is it stigmatized when you do not go to college to become successful? So I'm going to say, and again, these are just based off of my narratives and my experience. So a lot of times, and I've noticed this especially in the Black community, and I'll say Black, brown, minority communities, that college a lot of times is the end-all be-all. Not knowing that when you go to college, now you're competing in the Shark Tank, not the TV show, but the Shark Tank of people who are also now competing in the same job pool as you. But the success a lot of times often come because we come from a community, we come from a tribe, we come from a family to where probably less than 20% of our family has probably never even been to college, let alone have gotten a college degree. And trust me, I understand the value of education. I understand the value of education. But like the famous Mark Twain says, I never let schooling get in the way of my education. Now, we also have to remember, we're not far removed from a time where when we were slaves, it was illegal for us to read. It was illegal for us to become educated. So I understand the value in why education, why college, and that is the pinnacle for a lot of us. And the education is fundamental, and it helps you to get to other levels. And sometimes it's even just the connections and the relationships that you develop when you do go to college. But I will say it is not the only path one can take to become successful. And I say that because, and I see both sides of the spectrum. You have some people who are entrepreneurs who don't choose college, who knock people who go to college. Then you have some people who go to college who knock people who do not go to college. Trust me, I've been on both sides. I've been in rooms where I felt like shit because everybody in there was talking about college and how if you didn't go to college, you're pretty much worthless. Now, I've since matured mentally from feeling like that around or amongst people because I've become more comfortable in my skin and just who I am and in my walk in life. But there is definitely a stigma in circles, and I don't want to say in a Black community. I'm going to say in circles. There are stigmas in circles that if you do not go to college, you minimize your level of success. And I don't believe in that. I don't buy that because I think that, again, the success is subjective. I mean, success to one could be if I'm making an additional $3,000 a month outside of my 9-to-5 job. That's success to some people. So we have to be very careful and really just understand you can't push your narratives on anybody else because it's all subjective. And so, but yes, there is a stigma behind college equals success. And that definitely is not the case for everyone because, again, everybody is going to have a different path when it comes to what they deem as success.
Why do you place college as an only option to making it? Or why do we place college as an only option to making it?
So again, I think we place college as the only option to making it, and it goes back to even talking about on the first question that it's become the end-all be-all because, again, we're not far removed from education being a taboo for us. I mean, you got lynched for letting master know you know how to read. But at the same time, I would say that college often is equated to a good job. And so when having a good job or trying to increase your stock on the corporate ladder, that often comes with the price. And the price is getting a higher degree, getting that master's, getting that PhD. Often the PhD equals becoming a doctor, which we deem as success. Well, I've talked to some doctors who will tell you that they're not making any money. So we can't always deem higher degrees with success. I know a lot of people with a lot of degrees who are broke. No knock against them, and that's why, again, I say college or what we deem as success is subjective because I know a lot of people who went to college for the information, and that's what made them successful. So we have to be very careful about what we deem as made it, because I know a lot of people with degrees where when I was working at my corporate job in sales who were working right next to a cubicle next to my desk. And they didn't do as well as I did because the education of what they went to college for had nothing to do with what we were working on in our field or at the company we were working at. And so this is why I say we have to value the information. So when you go to college and you get the information is what helps you become successful. And I think that's where the stigma lies, is that we get the paper and say, I made it. And that's really when life just begins. It's no different than a professional athlete or entertainer. You get your music contract, you get signed to a label. That's not the end all be all, because now you got to work your ass off to stay relevant. Now you got to work your ass off to stay in the league. And so the I made it part is not what we optically see is what made it. So when you're going to college, getting in college is not the, hey, I made it, even though we applaud that, and as we should. But now we have to extract the information from that institution and go and apply it and not just go for the paper. And so why we place college as the only option is we made it. And that's because, again, it's so many different layers. One, like I say, we're not far removed from education being illegal for us. But then secondly, us buying into a system that they've almost kind of, made the allure of college being the end all be all. But this is, again, why I always say go for the information and not just a piece of paper.
So why does having a degree have more standing in the world versus someone who went to a trade school or is self-taught and is just as or more successful?
Great question. Why does having a degree in the world versus someone who went to a trade school or, became successful that's self-taught? So as I mentioned, and I can talk about this from a couple different, parallels or a couple different angles. So my father went to a trade school, and he had relatives who went on and got PhDs. Economically, my father was more successful. Now, some of them may have made more money, but because we don't talk about money, we don't understand how money works. So take two individuals. One goes to school and gets $300,000 in student loan debt. One goes to a trade and they're making, let's just say, $80,000 a year. Okay? Well, sorry. One goes to school, they get about $300,000 in student loan debt, comes out, make maybe, let's just say, $60,000, $70,000, because that's entry level in a lot of these companies. Let's just say it was $100,000 a year, entry level income. One goes to a trade school, becomes an apprentice, didn't cost them anything. Maybe let's say it cost them $5,000, $10,000. They come out making $80,000. Now, granted, the income difference is not that far off, but now we have to equate the one who has $300,000 in student loan debt over 30% of the income is going to pay back the student loan debt versus the one who went to the trade school. The $10,000, they have the ability to pay that off within a year or less time than that, whereas the one who has $300,000 in student loan debt possibly in their lifetime may not pay that off. And so understand that we have to be very careful about, because I've seen people dog individuals who go to trade schools. Oh, that's not real college. Well, it's not meant to be college. It's a trade, meaning I'm going to get specialized in a particular industry. I often talk with different parents as they're making financial decisions for their children about going to school. And I tell them all the time, depending on what they're going to school for, you possibly will be better off looking at a trade. Meaning, I know a lot of people who go into IT who decided not to go to college and just went and got certifications. So now they're out in a fraction of the time, which gives them the opportunity to get the experience a lot quicker. So now they can get into the workforce a lot quicker versus someone who goes to college for 4 years, gets into the workforce. Now, for those who may not know, information changes every 18 months. So now you done went to college for 4 years, you get out and graduate, the information is outdated. So guess what you got to do? Go back to school. But now that puts you behind the 8 ball to being able to make money to start paying back the student loan debt, which then people who's went through certification has already gotten 2-3 years worth of job experience before you can even get out into the work field. And so understanding that we have to stop looking at college just being the end all. Getting a trade, you'd be surprised the amount of, I know a lot of people who make a very good income, 6 figures, who have gotten trades, Or let's talk about the individuals who are self-taught, entrepreneurs. Now, one thing I will say though, now in today's time, entrepreneurship actually is a little bit more attractive now. 10, 15 years ago when I was becoming an entrepreneur, it was almost frowned upon. It was laughed at. I was talked about that. I was called words like, hey, you're just a hustle man, or you're in those pyramid schemes. First of all, people don't even know what the true definition of a pyramid scheme is. They just hear the terminology. And if you think about it, a pyramid scheme essentially is you have one person at the top and everything trickle down from the people at the bottom who don't make any money. If you think about corporate America, that's a pyramid scheme. You have the owner of the company or the manager at the top. You have the supervisors, you have middle management, and then you have the employees. That's a pyramid scheme. And so we have to be very careful about these terminologies we throw around because it's all subjective no matter what industry you're in. Now, understanding that entrepreneurship has become more accepted because you have a lot of people out here who have incredible ideas who've been able to capitalize off of them, as they very well should, because they've invested their time, they've invested their money, they've invested their resources. So, but to go back to the question, why does having a college degree have more standing in the world? Again, it's more about the perception. It's the marketing behind it. Think about it. Next time you watch television, watch how many college commercials come on television. And marketing isn't just for the sake of marketing. They're telling you a story. That's how they make their money, by marketing. I have this saying where I say facts tell, stories sell. And this is how it translates in business. Imagine a McDonald's commercial. What's the facts behind that? Okay. Obviously, we know beef comes from a cow. Okay. So the facts of a McDonald's commercial they would probably show you on a farm, you come back with a hamburger, and at the end of the commercial, you see the symbol that says McDonald's. It's a little bit more graphic than that, but we know that it comes from a cow. But instead, what do you see in a McDonald's commercial? You see a family sitting around the table, dumping their chicken nuggets in some barbecue sauce. It's not even real chicken nuggets. And so, but they're selling the story. So same thing with college. What's the facts behind college? You go to school for 3 to 4 years, $200,000-$300,000 in student loan debt, and you come out entry level, corporate America making $30,000 to $40,000 a year. You're not even making enough money to pay the student loan back. But what do they show you? A family who went to college, and they're buying stuff, buying a house, a car. So it's the story they're selling you. It's no coincidence that over the past 20 years, the cost of tuition has increased by over 88%. Think about that. Over the past 20 years, the cost of tuition has increased by over 88%. So some people look at it as a money grab. And again, that's why I say you want to be, I tell all my parents who have kids who are getting ready to go off to college, sit down and talk to your children to look at college as a business decision, not to go just to get the piece of paper. We want to get the information. So no disrespect. If you're going to school for underwater basket weaving, how does that translate into being able to take care of your family? Because it's going to cost you $50,000 to get that degree in underwater basket weaving. I've yet to see that job description on Indeed. So we want to be very careful. But I can send my child to school to learn coding and send them to a trade certification school, pay maybe $5,000, and they'll come out and be more efficient, and they can get into the job market quicker. Again, not pushing college just to say, hey, my baby made it, as opposed to saying, hey, my baby went to school, got his or her degree, but now it's taking that information to start their own, et cetera, et cetera. or went to that trade school, and now they're getting the information and starting their own trade school. So it could be on so many different levels, but I definitely don't feel that it holds more weight. That's just what has been popularized, that having that degree is more, hey, I made it, versus someone who's an entrepreneur or someone who goes to a trade school.
All right, man. Last question is, what is the roadmap to success without a degree, and does it even exist?
The roadmap to success without a degree. Picking up my book, Full-Time CEO, The Shit They Don't Tell You. And it really is that simple. Now, not that that's just a shameless plug, because it is. But more importantly, see, I can remember when I was working the job after I decided to drop out of college. And I can remember being at that company going on 8 years. And literally one day I went to work. The doors were chained up. I didn't know what I was going to do. I found my way into entrepreneurship. And fast forward from that point, and this was in 2003 up until 2020, so 17 years, I've had a lot of experiences, a lot of adversities, a lot of roadblocks. But I took those, as people may deem as failures, and created opportunities out of them. And what do I mean by that? See, if that company had not have closed down on me, I would probably still be working there. If I hadn't have came to Las Vegas and became homeless, I probably would have, been just comfortable doing whatever it is I was doing prior to that event taking place. If I hadn't have lost my investment when I invested into a franchise, if I hadn't left a 9 to 5 where I was making 6 figures to start my own business, I probably would have just been comfortable doing. So the roadmap to success is just going out there and doing it. I talk to people all the time and they say, Will, I want to start a business. What's the first thing I should do? Just go do it. Like, I've yet to find someone who's learned how to drive a car by reading the owner's manual of the vehicle. I've yet to find it. What do? You get in a car and you drive. That's the roadmap to success. You just have to go out there and do it. And I know it sounds corny. I know it sounds cliche, but it really is that simple. I was talking with some friends earlier today, and I said, making $1 million is easy. Now, I didn't say it's not going to take a lot of work. It's hard work. The work is hard, but it takes the same amount of effort to make $1 million a year as it takes to make $50,000 a year. It's the information, which is why I say when you go to school, go for the information. The information is what's important, because once you have the information, now you have the strategies. See, think about it like this. Take an individual who works 2 jobs, put in 15 hours a day. All right. That person may make $50,000 a year. The average entrepreneur who's successful probably works about 15 hours a day as well. So you have 2 individuals who's exerting the same amount of hours within a day. They're sleep deprived the same number of hours throughout the day. They put their pants on pants leg at a time. They bleed the same. They do everything the same, but one is making $50,000 a year. One is making $50,000 a month. It takes the same energy, but it's the information. It's the strategy. So this is why I say you just have to go out there and do it. You fail your way to success. You fail your way to the top. Of course, you're not going to know everything on the way, but this is why you invest in yourself. You invest in mentorship. You invest into coaching. You invest in sharpening the strongest muscle in your body, which is your mind. See, that's why most people who create success financially, they could lose it all and get it back if they had the right mindset as they were building it. On the latter side of that, this is why you have individuals who win the lottery who go broke, who never amass that type of money again. That's because they were never a millionaire mentally. Same thing with professional athletes or entertainers, movie stars, actors, rappers, singers. All of them who don't mature mentally, who don't personally develop themselves mentally, can lose it all and will never amass that amount of money again. Now, they can, switch their path in life to become more savvy mentally, financially, and then be able to put themselves back in position again because they already have the work ethic. See, the work ethic and the talent may get you in the door, but it's your character, your mindset, your drive, your ambition. That's what keeps you there. That's why it's so important. So the roadmap is just going out there doing it. The roadmap is to go and fail. The reason success can exist is because it's been too many case studies that's proven that it can be done. I can remember being at a family function and we were sitting around talking about, man, nobody that we personally know in our family has ever made a certain amount of money or had a certain amount of success. And for those who know me, I've always just been naturally an introverted person outside of business. See, when I'm in a business setting, because I'm passionate, I'm confident, I could talk for days. But if we're in a social setting, you probably may not even know I'm in the room. So a lot of times I just listen. And I think that's the cancer side of me, because we as cancers, we process things before we talk or act or whatever. But more importantly, I used to always tell myself, well, I'm going to be that individual that's going to be that first person. But that's because I wasn't scared to fail. That's the roadmap to success, is not being able to fail. I wasn't scared to invest in myself. The investment came me flying across the country, going to different seminars and workshops where I couldn't even afford a hotel room in those cities. I can remember driving to Oklahoma City, piled up 10 in a room, going to go get information from this convention. I can remember us driving 36 hours across the country to go to a conference. I remember going into conferences where I'm sitting in the nosebleeds because I couldn't afford to sit, closer to the floor. But that's because I went for the information. So I was willing to sacrifice my ego and rent. Well, I ain't have much money, so I just chipped in a few dollars to stay in a 2-bedroom hotel where half of us are sleeping on the floor. So I was willing to, get the information by any means necessary. I was willing to get in a car with 6 of us in a 5-passenger vehicle and drive 36 hours across the country to go to a convention to get the information. I was willing to go and sit at the library while everybody else was going to Cancun and doing all these things for spring break. I was willing to invest my time for the information because Cancun gonna always be there. This is back when Cancun was popping. I know it may not be popping right now. Now it's Cabo. Now it's Dubai. I was willing to invest my time. I was willing to get the information. And again, this is why I revert back to college. The information. Is the information more valuable than the piece of paper? And I'm going to say, yes, it is. Because the information can change your life. The paper, aesthetically, it'll get you some applause. The paper, aesthetically, will get you some oohs and ahs and I'm happy to high fives. And that's cool. But I also want people to understand, because it's my civil duty to come and deliver this information to my people. I love y'all. So I want to give you guys the information based upon my journey, my walk, the circles I've been around. So I want everybody to understand the roadmap to success without a degree. Yes, it does yes, it does exist. Excuse me. What does it look like for me? I would say that I've been able to prove my naysayers. I'm no longer that black sheep in my family where people were like, oh, you dropped out of college? It was almost like I was a taboo. Like I was a Cancer. My zodiac sign is a Cancer, but I'm not a Cancer because I didn't go to college. And so understand that the roadmap is just going to do it. So if I could leave you guys with one thing, one piece of information, is go out there and be great. Go out there and live your dream. yes, college is not for everyone. And for the ones who are in school, go for the information. That's where the value is at. All right. So family, hopefully you guys have learned something. I know I get extremely passionate. I literally could talk for another 3 hours. And so, but more importantly, I just want to share my experiences, share my walk. And if you have not done so, please, as I mentioned, the roadmap to success is also in the book. See, they often say if you want to hide something from people, put it in a book. Not only did I put it in a book, I'm giving you guys the information verbally. And so please make sure you go out, pick up my copy, Full-Time CEO, the shit they don't tell you. I mean, I talk about everything in there from sales funnels to how to price your products, dealing with competition, the mindset you need to have, all of the stuff that you don't think about when you are starting a business. But this is the stuff that we need to understand. And even for those, I've had people who said they picked up the book and it just helped them from a day-to-day life to help them to think even outside the box. See, there was a study done that how we think inside the box, that's what keeps us trapped. And so there was a study done with ants, and they put an ant on a piece of paper and drew a circle with the ink pen around the ant. Did you know that ant would not leave that circle? That's how a lot of us are trapped mentally. We're so boxed in and thinking this is the only way in life, and it is not. And it's all based upon an imaginary fear that they're boxed in. The imaginary fear for that ant was a circle that was drawn on a piece of paper with an ink pen. See, a lot of us have had this imaginary circle drawn around the sphere of our mental, our mental abilities that we're too scared to go off and veer out and become great because we're worried about somebody laughing at us. Look, I got laughed at all through high school, middle school, elementary school. I'm probably getting laughed at as an adult. So I'm definitely not worried about what people think of me because I'm going out there living my dreams. And so that's what I want to leave you guys with. Go out there, live your dreams, be great, continue to be great. Go pick up that book, Full-Time CEO, the shit they don't tell you. The audio version is coming. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And again, family, if you have not went to my YouTube and subscribed, please make sure you like, share, comment, all that good stuff, because that is just a platform of me, guys, delivering more information for you, completely just on all the topics of business, finances, credit, all that good stuff. So again, family, I appreciate you going on this journey with me. This is the Wealth Files Podcast, and I'll see you all at the top. Peace. Thank you for tuning in to the Wealth Files Podcast. My name is Will Roundtree. Yo, make sure that you subscribe to me on YouTube at Mr. Will Roundtree. And also, you can follow me on all the top podcast sites, Google, Anchor, Apple, as well as Spotify. And again, family, I appreciate you going on this journey with me, and I'll see you all at the top.